this week we are going to work on writing goals and looking at indicators, goals and indicators. Every session, every learning session that you have will have a student learning goal. Here in an academic institution, we call that, we have, for a course, we have student learning outcomes. For a session, we have learning objectives. And so every time you write a lesson, you have to know what it is you want your students to be able to know and understand, know or understand if it's higher, or be able to do as a result of having been in your learning session. Now, how are you going to know you're successful if you've not written a learning goal and you've not evaluated that? So today I want to run through how you write these learning goals. But I want to give you a little bit of background first. You can prepare to be a teacher in undergraduate and graduate education across Atlanta colleges. There are numerous ways to approach writing learning goals. And different institutions approach it differently. You can go online and you can look at a lot of different ways to write learning goals. And so we have made a decision here at this institution to write them in a certain kind of way. And this is the way that we're going to introduce to you today. So some of you may have been trained in writing learning goals before, and while it may be very similar, could be a bit different. And so this is the form that we're going to use. We use this in teaching the Bible. We use this as we are educating faculty on writing learning goals. And because we're turning a big ship here, even with that. And this is also the way that we are helping our doctoral students learn to write learning goals. So consistently across the board, this is the way NOBTS is approaching the writing of learning goals. So you, along with all of your other classmates here, are part of a much bigger picture when it comes to writing learning goals. We want to write them properly so that we're able to assess student learning. So as you've seen in your PowerPoint, and you will see this in the PowerPoint, you'll also see it in Dr. Yount's materials that we have posted for you that you have created to learn. You also have it in the Discipler's handbook there. It would go like this. The student will demonstrate blank. And in that first blank, you're either going to put, they're going to demonstrate an understanding, they're going to demonstrate knowledge, or they're going to demonstrate an ability to do something. They're going to demonstrate a skill. So we're just going to go with the cognitive one first. The student will demonstrate an understanding of, and then there's a second blank. Well, I'm going to give you an example. The student will demonstrate an understanding of God's love found in John 3:16. We have to be very specific about what kind of passage we're looking at, because God's love as described in a different passage may have a different focus. So it's not just God's love in general. We're talking about God's love in John 3:16. The student will demonstrate an understanding of God's love in John 3:16 by blank. How are they going to demonstrate this understanding? So we could say that they will demonstrate an understanding of God's love found in John 3:16 by explaining the passage in their own words. That level of understanding is up from knowledge. That's not knowledge. Knowledge would be that they're able to recite John 3:16. Or they could recite a list of things that you have given them about John 3:16. But it's memorization. A level up from that, comprehension, is being able to put something in your own words. So that's not the highest level of cognitive understanding, but it is in the level of understanding. So once again, the student will demonstrate an understanding of God's love found in John 3:16, or as described in John 3:16, or as stated in John 3:16, however you choose to do that, by putting it into their own words, explaining it in their own words, however you choose to say that. So that's that level of comprehension. Now, that by statement, by putting it in their own words, that part of the learning goal is called a performance indicator. This is what the student will demonstrate, therefore it is a performance. They are going to demonstrate their understanding by doing this. So that is the performance indicator. And that is what you are going to test with your target evaluation. Somewhere near right there at the end of your Bible study time, you are going to need to determine if your students understand what you said they would understand by the end of your lesson. And so if you're the Bible study leader and this is your topic for the day, John 3:16, and you want them to be able to put it in their own words, you could have them do that, putting it in their own words by writing it on a piece of paper, by telling it to you out loud, by putting them in groups and having them explain it to one another. Somehow or another, you are going to need to determine if they have hit the mark, if they are able to do it. So that is your target evaluation. You are evaluating their performance. That's the performance indicator. So when we talk about goals and indicators, we're looking at, this is our learning goal, our learning objective for the session, and then we have to assess them somehow or another. There is an indicator there that we need to determine if they've hit it. Now, once again, the student will demonstrate blank. Now, that's where you put your domain of learning. It's either going to be an understanding, knowledge or understanding, or it's going to be something behavioral. That goes in the first blank. Of something. So whatever it is that you're trying to communicate, to teach that week goes there. And then the by statement, that is your last blank, and that's where you put your indicator, your performance indicator. That is how you write a learning goal. Students will demonstrate something, of something, by something. And once you've filled in those three, you've got your learning goal. Then you can move on then with writing your lesson, and everything you do in your lesson needs to point your students towards being able to accomplish that learning goal. You need only one learning goal per session, just one. This is sometimes where we fall down when we are constructing lessons, be they for Bible study or academic. We try to put way too much in a session, and it's overwhelming for students, and then we're not really sure if they're able to do what we want them to do. If you go into a class and you just throw buckshot at people, you have too much coming at them. They just leave with lots of information, but they're not really able to do much with it. So we want to sort of pare down. This forces us really to get very specific, concentrated on what we're doing in a class session. So all that you're doing in that class session needs to focus them on that one learning goal. Once again, one, just one. So while you may write more goals as an exercise for this course, like you had to come up with a cognitive goal and a behavioral goal, only one of those goals goes in the lesson, okay? One cognitive, one behavioral, 2 lessons. If you have any questions about how to write these learning goals, please ask them. You can send an email, you can call whoever is teaching this course. Most likely it would be me, or but it could be somebody else. So give us a call, because if you cannot write a proper learning goal, you're not going to be able to execute your lesson well. So we want you to be very comfortable with writing learning goals. And this is something that you'll practice in your workbook as well. You're going to look at all these different components and be able to write a good learning outcome. This is something we spend a great deal of time on, even in the live class as well, when we meet here on campus. So it's something we take very seriously. It is really the beginning step of writing your lesson plan, is writing a good learning goal. Talk to you soon.